Greetings and warm welcome to the final day of this global cyber conclave titled Cybersphere C3D 2020 Data Digital Diplomacy, organized by Tilottama Foundation. Tilottama Foundation is a global organization working in the areas of international relations, financial, environmental, scientific, strategic, and defense policy. On the final session of day 4 of this conclave, I am pleased to present the special lecture on legal frameworks of cybersecurity at international and national levels by Dr. Karnika Seth, noted cyber lawyer and managing partner, Seth Associates. We are glad to have you among us. I want to acknowledge FIRE NGO who work on cyber awareness for their contribution in having Dr. Seth here among us. Let me now request Dr. Seth to kindly begin her presentation.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here at the Cybersphere 2020, and I congratulate Tilottama Foundation for organizing this webinar on such an important topic today. Cybersecurity is something that affects all nations, and not just India. We are talking about global scenario. That is one of the foremost areas of debate, and also countries are struggling to look into cyber crimes, which is growing at a huge pace at this point of time. Therefore, cybersecurity and digital safety is something which is paramount for every country today. Talking from an Indian standpoint, this is one of the key areas of work at this point. Having practiced this field of law for 2 decades now, we are at a time when the IT Act has already, the Information Technology Act in India has already been there for 2 decades. And there have been a lot of changes in the middle, like in the amendments which have happened around 2009. And currently, every day there are some new challenges like fake news. Combating fake news is a challenge. Use of AI, artificial intelligence. Predominantly at this point, there's a lot of work, research work, and deployment happening across various sectors, be it healthcare, be it even national defense, be it any kind of an enterprise, whether it is legal industry or even otherwise, agricultural, agri-tech industry. This is using AI at this point of time to leverage and harness its best potentials. Having said that, as regards national security, AI, particularly machine learning and any kind of tools, IoT-based tools, have been the focus of, a debate on data ethics and a debate on data science and mining, and how AI would be probably used by countries to, propagate or even attack in terms of cyber attacks. And therefore, increasingly, this is becoming an important issue for debate. And a lot of times, I've been, fortunate to even be a part of the think tank with VIF, Vivekananda Foundation, where we looked into how the national cyberspace and security becomes an issue, particularly when we don't have a cybercrime convention that India is a signatory to. So from a global standpoint and from an Indian perspective as well, this becomes a key issue, how we can protect our borders, because national defense is becoming a concern, especially when it comes to cyber warfare. There are new technologies people are deploying every day, nations are deploying every day, and we have to protect our borders. So what are the recommendations, what are the strategies we need to put in place so that we can combat these issues? So that is, again, something which is very, very material. Coming to the legal framework, as we see today, the legal framework, the main principal legislation we are following in India is the IT Act, which is the Information Technology Act 2000. And in that, there was a specific section regarding cyber terrorism, which was added, apart from hacking, which is under Section 66 of the IT Act. Section 66F, was incorporated, and where we talk about cyber terrorism and what can be done to combat cyber terrorism. It's a heinous crime, and anybody who's trying to attack through Trojans, through keyloggers, or any kind of a cyber attack which infects a critical infrastructure or protected systems of India commits an offense of cyber terrorism. and is an act which is punishable with a term up to life imprisonment. So it's as serious as that, and obviously it's non-bailable. So that is one of the key sections we use. And hacking, section 66, again provides a punishment of up to 3 years of imprisonment and fine or more. So depending on the crime, for example, if it is hacking coupled with another offense, provisions in the IPC, which is the Indian Penal Code, also apply alongside the IT Act. Now, it really is a matter of concern for any nation to see the number of crimes which are rising today, especially during COVID. In India itself, there are reliable reports which indicate a crime rate increase of about 85% during the COVID times. Now, in this time frame, the way the crimes have risen, particularly phishing attacks, particularly fake news, have brought some new challenges in this domain, and a lot of attacks, aimed at siphoning of monies of people. That's predominantly phishing, which is a financial crime. A lookalike website could be created by a fraudster and asking private or personal information, or like a sensitive information or credit card information or net banking information could be easily stolen. And people who are vulnerable, who are not aware of cyber safety practices, would probably be easily fall victims to this cyber crime. And that's how the perpetrators of crime really propagate in this cyberspace. And there have been this as financial crime as a main agenda of their main motive, and various modus operandi have been used by them, including use of software tools and other things like onion routing or Tor mechanisms to actually hide their true identity and take refuge of the anonymity which is inherent part of the internet and cyberspace. So having said that, that is not alone a key challenge, but there are definitely more challenges, particularly if it's a trans-border crime. Now, how this happens, it could be a man-in-the-middle attack. It could be a hacking of a server which is based in India. It could be a foreign server. And if there are trans-border crimes which happen, the mutual legal assistance treaty system really makes it very difficult for us to get the evidence from abroad. I have been fortunate to be a trainer to the CBI and the National Police Academy and Judicial Academies, and we look at this issue very, very closely at various law enforcement authorities, that when we have to find a particular evidence for an important case, sometimes not able to get it in time, or the evidence could be erased altogether because of overwriting of data. Now, in such a scenario, the convictions will not happen. And a lot of times, specifically, I think in the case of child pornography, there have been huge number of operations. Even India has been party to that, where a lot of fraudsters and pornographic racketeers and human trafficking racketeers have been actually caught, and there has been proper prosecution thereafter. So, with the cooperation of law enforcement authorities abroad, with the cooperation of the system in which they have the international cooperation mechanism, the Interpol, they play a huge, I would say, pivotal role in this regard. And I think with that, these trans-border crimes can be unraveled. But it's important to make it more efficient. This infrastructure, we have some lacunas at this point of time, which need to be addressed on a very important, like I would say, imperative mode, because at this point of time, we have a challenge, which is gathering of electronic evidence. The SOPs to gather electronic evidence, how quickly can we retrieve it from abroad? Can the information be stored in India? Now, a lot of times, personal data, for example, how is it treated in India? How does one protect privacy in India? Becomes interlinked also at some points of time. Now, when such issues arise, the question arises, do we have enough laws even to protect personal information and data? And if supposedly there's an offense which is committed and there's a crime, are we able to gather that data from Indian servers itself? Now, in the past few weeks and months, we've been discussing the Personal Data Protection Privacy Bill, which is underway. And we've also been discussing the cybersecurity, new strategy for cybersecurity protection in India. Now, that policy is very important. And again, I was fortunate to be a part of that, once we had discussions around this whole issue of what should be there in terms of cybersecurity policy, what are the parameters which are missing, which need to be mentioned. And there was a consultation, and I was, fortunate to be a part of that. And we discussed at length what exactly we need to infuse in the current framework. For example, in more international cooperation with law enforcement authorities, trainings, more need of cyber, awareness campaigns, and more need of having a robust, and I would say, infrastructure and manpower to tackle the rising cyber crimes today, and also education among children, because these. In order to prevent cybercrime, that is the best practice we can adopt, to protect our future generations. So, having said that, the Personal Data Protection Bill, along with having a robust, say, the cybersecurity policy in the country, it can really help prevent cybercrimes. And with the more protection in terms of privacy, more protection in terms of personal data, it will not only protect them from intrusions or surveillance or unnecessary intrusions or invasions by private players, operators, but also from government. So that's important to give to the citizens of India. There's a fundamental right, as rightly upheld by the Supreme Court of India. And it's important to actually, look at it from this point of view, that with a robust framework and with a robust mechanism in terms of not only maneuvering the whole scenario in terms of legal framework, but also enforcement becomes a very key issue, key parameter at this point. And so one has to look at the development, the improvements needed from a standpoint that not only do we need a clearer blueprint, a more robust blueprint in terms of the legal framework, but also we should be able to combat the challenges which are there of enforcement. And I mean, looking at it from the holistic standpoint, this will cater to not only protection of citizens of India from a point of view which is Indian perspective, but also on a global standpoint. And therefore, in the cyberspace today, and when we deal with cyber crimes, we cannot really restrict ourselves only to deal with, domestic issues or issues which are only Indian, because cyberspace has really no borders. It is a huge, huge space which is trans-border. And when it is a trans-border space, the issues are interlinked with different nations, whether it's business, B2C or B2B, or whether it is protecting the national borders. Every country has its sovereign rules, and there is a framework, to protect in terms of national defense. But nevertheless, they are still interlinked, and therefore the need for global dialogue, the need for global think tanks, because the government can, look at this perspective that the international relations among different countries will have to establish the code on how we can, what are the basic tenets on basis of which we can act, we can protect ourselves, what are the basic core principles of maybe use of AI and warfare, protecting in terms of national defense, what collaborations, what cooperation mechanisms can be there in order to, assist unraveling of or prosecution of crimes in terms of trans-border crime. So this all needs a very, I would say, not only a dialogue from in between governments, but also from a multi-stakeholder basis. There needs to be a participation. There needs to be a participation of the individuals also who are involved and who are affected directly by this whole ecosystem, this whole scenario. So therefore, I'm of the view that a lot needs to be done in terms of streamlining content, in terms of streamlining the social media, for instance. There is a new law which probably is required at this point because a lot of times these crimes happen on social media. And there needs to be greater transparency, there needs to be greater accountability of these platforms from where these attacks happen. And it's not just affecting individual citizens, but it could affect the country as a whole. It could be also a threat to the nation. A lot of activities which involve sedition or which involve even, I would say, terrorist attacks or recruiting terrorists happen through social media or other engineering attacks. And that needs to be also tackled. If there is accountability, if there is a public grievance officer, for example, who looks into these issues, the moment it is brought to their notice, they act on it, there's a takedown, then I think the efficiency levels rise. But unfortunately, at this point of time, many times it happens that there is no response. Even with a legal notice sent to the social media platform, there would not be any response apart from an automated response. After all, every service provider, whether it's an intermediary or not, needs to be accountable and needs to act within the confines of law. So enforcement is a challenge, and laying down a blueprint of what is the due diligence, after all, that is needed from these platforms. If there is a offense which happening on it or a crime which is happening on it, what are their responsibilities? How are they liable? Is what also needs a debate at this point of time. And looking at it from the point of view of having a robust mechanism in terms of legal framework, we need better laws maybe to protect children. We do have POCSO, we do have specifically sections in the IT Act like 67B where child pornography is banned. But how many times it happens that these pictures, harmless pictures of children taken from, say, social media or otherwise, are being morphed by racketeers and put on sites which are just illegal. And that's something which is worrisome as well. Not only is cybercrime affecting the nation when it comes to threats to national defense, but also affecting businesses, like I mentioned, the ransomware attacks or the man-in-the-middle attacks, but also it's affecting property. For example, it would damage the entire data. Via ransomware attack, it would encrypt the entire data or stealing away data. These issues, and then affecting the human psyche, extortion, even revenge porn, things like affecting the children or women, trolling, for example. These are some new issues which require, I think, very clear and important laws which should be there, express laws, which sometimes I feel that they're lacking at this point, because every day this dynamic cyberspace and the challenges are rising, and not many times do we find the exact explicit law for everything. So I think we need amendments in the law. We need faster track courts in India to have a speedier justice, more access to justice delivery system. I would want to mention the E-Committee of the Supreme Court of India, under the guidance of Justice Lokur, took up this initiative of e-courts, and I was fortunate to be involved in the preparation of the manual, where close to 18,000 district courts in India and 21 high courts have now an available software by which one can actually e-file any case from anywhere in India. And that's important because that is a very important tool, a powerful tool in the hands of a common man who can, get the access to justice. And that's very important. And, projects like these, projects like, creation of, with the help of AI, we have had a pilot run of a court where small petty challans could be even tried by a robot. We are almost entering a time and era where AI can be a useful tool if used wisely by us. And it's important for us to leverage that technology in the best interest of mankind. So I've also recently authored a book on AI, and I think when I was writing the same, I realized how different countries across the world are using that as a important tool to actually reach a dimension in terms of efficiency in every almost every sphere, whether it's healthcare or it is agriculture or it is improvising the economy through various industry verticals, manufacturing, research, even national defense. I was amazed to see the kind of progress that is possible even in the transport sector. Sensor-based transport mechanisms are into place in the courts. We have important decisions like taken by robots, but yes, it does have important ethical considerations here, because after all, when a judge is deciding, it's a human psyche involved, and there are parameters you look into. There have been some debates about this, whether a robot is equipped enough to actually give proper judgments. And if it is small matters like challans, it is different matter. But if it is, even taking aid of a software which sees recidivism, whether a particular criminal would repeat this crime again or not, those softwares have been challenged, whether it is legal to use them or illegal to use them. And I think that these are the kind of debates which we will see in the future to come, while we are trying to create what kind of a blueprint how we would like to proceed in this sphere of cyber law and cybercrime and cyber safety and protecting our frontiers with technology. I think apart from making the new laws or refining them, having new measures to improve on the enforcement with trainings, with better equipped courts, use of AI, this is also important to look into, whether we need a more, I would say, international cooperation mechanisms. What kind of treaties can we have? What kind of international dialogue can we have? Because it's not something which is a standalone. Every nation needs cooperation today, especially in order to combat cybercrime. So I think I would like to conclude by saying that there is a lot to be done on this canvas. And when we look at cyber law and cybercrime and the way different nations are combating various challenges today, in order to curb this issue and in order to deal with it effectively, not only do we need more legislative, I would say, work in terms of increasing, the deterrence in terms of the laws, because there are gaps and there is lacking. For example, to deal with fake news or to deal with newer issues of, how we can combat the national challenges or national threats, to national defense through, say, use of AI-based technologies or otherwise. We also need to have a very clear roadmap for enforcement challenges, and we also need a greater debate on how we can improvise the international relations in this regard, so that whatever we decide and whatever we do in terms of the legal framework, it is seamless in terms of implementation. It is not fragmented. And that way we can increase our efficiency in the best interest of all of us. That's something which I personally feel. And having practiced this area for 2 decades, I also feel that it needs a multi-stakeholder approach. Many times these efforts are fragmented. There needs to be interdepartmental approach to this whole exercise. It cannot be fragmented. It cannot be standalone. And that will work in the best of our advantage. With these words, I'd like to conclude on a promising note that yes, a lot needs to be done, but with what we have today and with a clear set of mind on what are the areas that need work, we can synergize our efforts in such a way that we are able to create a roadmap which is robust, at the same time a roadmap which is clear and something which is workable, something which is sustainable, and not something which is a part of a myth or a fantasy, because a fantasy will not be implementable. But what we are trying to do is to create a cybersphere or a utopia, you can call it, I would like to synergize this by saying that what we are trying to debate today is actually at the helm of affairs, not just in India, but abroad. And in order to create that kind of an ecosystem, we are only able to create it once we have inputs from all directions. And with that, it will lead to a wholesome result. And I leave with you, on this promising note, I leave you to just ponder over these issues. I'm very happy to share that with our initiatives on cyber safety and awareness, we, under the banner of FIRE, which is a Foundation for Institutional Reform and Education, have been synergizing with various NGOs and with various stakeholders to carry out cyberspace and awareness activities. And our participation in Cybersphere 2020 is one of those initiatives. We are happy to have contributed to this webinar, and we look forward to working with you all on finding ways and means to achieve the goal of having a safe cyberspace for everyone. And I hope to work with you all more on how we can implement this and what are the strategies we can put into place to actually achieve this goal. Thank you.